Scream 4.
Which I remember the most, by the way, because we did just watch that, I think, like, last week? Like, last Thursday or something, so, yeah.
Scream 4 definitely, again, they just kept the quality going. I really like Scream 4.
Yeah.
And I like that it wasn't, like, an immediate thing, like, they didn't do it a couple years later. I like that the first 3 was set up, and for a long time was just a trilogy, beginning, middle, end, and then they were done.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I like that they came back and did Scream 4 just based on because of what they were saying, because now they were talking about horror remakes.
I love that, I know.
I know, and I said to you, I love that they did this, and the way they did it was kind of taking the piss out of a potential Scream remake, which I loved. A million times over, in a million years would prefer this take on a Scream remake than an actual
Scream. Yeah. Well, I think that may be also why I thought Neve Campbell wasn't going to come back, or even like Dewey and Gale, because I thought there's such a gap between I just thought it was the trilogy and she was going to be done. And I even thought like, oh, Neve Campbell probably wouldn't even want to go back just because she spent so many years on them. Maybe she wanted to move on and do other things. And I just really seriously thought this was going to go in such a different direction. And I was actually kind of nervous. I'm like, I feel like this is going to be the only Scream I really don't like. And I got to be honest, I actually think it's one of my favorite ones out of the 4. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I think because the performances, and I know a lot of the actors in it, like Hayden Panettiere is awesome. I love Emma Roberts, always have loved her as an actress, so I think that helps elevate it too. But the fact that the 3 do return, and I did not expect that at all. Like when I first saw Sidney, and my blind ass was like, "Is that Gale?" And you're like, "No, that's Neve Campbell." And I was like, "Oh shit!"
I know. I was like, "There she is." After you
and
were
I'm like,
just...
"Is that?"
Well, they both have like the dark black hair.
I know, and yeah, that's true. So that don't fault me, and I'm also blind as hell. I just gotta say that. So, but yeah, so I guess like to start with, we can talk about the opening because that was like a mind fuck and a half.
I know that was very. I kind of love the way they did it because this was 11 years after Scream 3, which is probably why they were able to get all 3 to come back, because it wasn't like an immediate sequel. They were like, oh, we haven't, they loved making these movies. It's been 10 years. They probably thought this would be fun. They've had enough of a break from it. But I love, because it had a 10-year gap, that they decided to play fun with the Stab movies and to see how far they've come, and mocking like how far horror franchises can just fall when they just keep going and going and going and going.
Right.
Well, with the time travel they mentioned, and they're on Stab 7.
Oh my god, yeah. I remember like, what did I compare the opening to? I was like, this is like Inception, which is like that movie about like the dream within a dream within a dream. I was just like, oh my god.
It was Stab 6, and then it was Stab 7.
Yeah.
Apparently at the beginning of Stab 7, they're watching Stab 6, which is weird.
That is weird.
Like I said when we watched it, I was like, wow, so if you're a fan of this and you went to see Stab 7 in theaters, although I'm sure at that point it was direct to DVD.
Right.
But like, you go to see it and you're like, wait, why is this opening with Stab 6? I don't know. But I feel like both of those fake out and openings were good. They were effective enough. I honestly think I prefer the Stab 7 when it's both of them sitting on the couch and it's the rogue actress and Kristen Bell. I think I prefer that even more than the actual opening of Scream 4 with the 2 other blonde girls, because there wasn't a whole lot to that. I like the creativeness of the middle one, Stab 7, when you find out that Kristen Bell is the killer immediately and stabs her on the couch.
Oh yeah, and then that's the one that says like, now shut up and watch the movie. Yeah, I like that too. Yeah, and I do like how they seem to always get like pretty big actors to play in these like scenes where they just die. Because I mean, I obviously knew who Kristen Bell was. I didn't know it was Rogue right away, just because she looks so different with the lighter. Like, that's Rogue, and I was like, oh my god. So that was cool.
And then I think like the first 2 actresses are like teenage people at the time would really like them. I feel like
they were probably like TV. I thought that too, because they were the dark hair ones, right? Like, because it was the I remember what
one of them was talking about like she's a Facebook stalker or something.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
And the other one was like, that's Channing Tatum.
Oh yeah. No, and I remember when the actual movie started, like the actual Scream opening, I was like,
Mm.
oh, okay, is it gonna fake me out again? And then like, obviously it didn't. It was the actual opening, but it was really cool to start it off that way. It was very different than the previous
Right.
ones. I mean, it still opened with a kill, obviously,
Yeah.
like a murder, but it was very different to have the stab movies be like.
Yeah,
I was
like I
like, oh
said,
yeah,
I love the way they played with that to show you how far the stab movies have come at this
I
point.
know. It's a good way to set it up, like just establish it right away.
But there's also a line with one of the first girls, the first set of girls, when she was talking about Saw, and she said like, "Oh, that's not
Oh,
scary. It's just blood and guts and torture."
oh,
And
that's so true.
she said she's sick of that torture porn shit, and that's how I feel about Saw. At a certain point, it's like, wow, like these are the kind of horror movies I like, the Scream ones that are character and
Yeah.
things like that. I don't care for Saw and Hostel for the most part,
Oh, I
and it's
agree.
sad that for a while that took over the genre.
I know that's why I do like how they even sort of poke fun at that because Saw was like the biggest thing for a while, and there's so many people that absolutely love all of them, and they just like to me, I just like honestly the first one. The second one was okay from what I remember of it,
Mm.
but then they just got really ridiculous. They were just
Yeah,
all about blood, and the first one was at least kind of creative. It's like, oh, a serial killer, you have to make a choice, like he plays these fucked up games. So like I guess it's got a cool concept,
right.
but just the
But then it
way
was
it's delivered, it's
Yeah, but then it was even interesting that this movie, because when it was made, played on that, and they were like,
I
okay,
know
well, you gotta have more blood and guts because that's the time.
that's the
And I
time,
think
yeah.
not even like in a way like we have to do it. It's like it'd be cool to do this because movies like now are doing this with the whole meta thing of Scream.
Yeah, that's why I love yeah, that's why they're so well written because they just say they really like are a statement of like what Hollywood was doing at each time with like, horror. So I
Yeah,
love that.
I know. But no, the whole opening I thought was really, really clever. Um,
I know I liked it. It fucked with my head. Like all the Scream movies do.
yes. Before we move on to Sidney, Gale, and Dewey, which we should do next,
Hmm.
one last thing on the two girls that were the opening of Scream 4 and they were killed.
Oh yeah.
As I said, they don't really explain. They're girls that go to high school with Jill. That's her name, Sydney's
Oh,
cousin,
okay, yeah, Emma
and
Roberts.
Kirby. We were making fun of her name, but
Oh, isn't that
they have
Hayden Panettiere? Yeah.
yeah. Those two girls in the beginning went to school with them, and they don't really explain why they were killed.
Right.
I think like it's mentioned somewhere that the girl that was killed last, um, how like Jill was talking, her boyfriend cheated on her. The girl that was killed last was the one he cheated on her with. So I guess that was
Oh,
Jill at the beginning killing her.
right. Makes
Makes
sense then.
sense. Yeah. Yeah. They're just not really clear about it. It just otherwise
But
seems like
again,
two random
sometimes
girls.
sometimes I feel like
That,
these opening kills though don't really need a whole bunch of
they,
motivation just because
yeah.
they could just be like, okay, Ghostface, whoever is being Ghostface just wants
Mhm.
people on edge and wants people to know he's back or whatever,
Right.
like I just feel like
But
they
then
can
they
set
were,
it up and it's fine.
yeah, yeah. But then they were also saying later, like they were trying to say that it was somebody trying to remake Stab.
Oh yeah.
Like the set, which didn't
Interesting.
really make sense because it didn't follow it too closely. But
Right, right.
if we want to go to Sydney, I think Sydney, I love that the where they put her because there's only so many places you can go with the final girl,
Right.
and a lot of the times it's cliche and it's kind of like a waste of the character. Like one example is when the character just goes crazy. Like I'm thinking of, or it's locked up, and it's like Laurie in Halloween Resurrection. She's just put in an insane asylum. It's like
Oh yeah, that's
where can you go with the character that goes through all this?
right.
But I really like the way they did it with Sydney, and that she like wrote that book about her experiences and she was helping people, and
Yeah.
I like that. I like that was a good direction for her character, and she was finally like at
Yeah, she
peace.
didn't go like bonkers the way like
Yeah.
Lori kind of does in almost every
Uh-huh.
time she's brought back, which again, I do like seeing the way they handle these final girls. I like seeing the like different ways they can handle it. So I'm not
Mhm.
saying the way that Lori was handled was necessarily like a bad choice or it was wrong, like whatever, like everybody goes through things differently. So I kind of
Right.
like seeing how like Lori just kind of goes batshit crazy, whereas like Sydney's able to sort of use it
Grow
as
and
a way to as a way to like help other people, which I
yeah.
really really like that. So
Yeah.
that is interesting. And
Yeah.
it just shows her character like layers even more and that she's actually like a really good person despite going through all this
Yeah.
fucked up shit.
Yeah, and I loved I think Nev Campbell probably did one of the best jobs. Not every performance is great, but I think she was really
Right.
great in this movie. And I also love that it was really fucked up when, she comes back to Woodsboro and like the town starts blaming her for it happening again.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah.
poor Sidney, she just can't.
Catch a break ever. I know. And people are like scared that she's in town. Like that one friend of Hayden Panettiere and Emma Roberts doesn't
Yeah,
want to stay over the house because
yeah,
they're like,
they're
oh,
like she was calling her like the angel of death.
yeah, poor Sidney. Even though like she had totally turned it around and like was helping people, she was still had that
I
stigma
know,
of if she's around, the killer's gonna come back type thing. So
but I love that they introduced like the younger characters, and I don't know if it came across like this to you, but like I feel like this is how they marketed it and how they wanted you to think. Like
hmm.
this is the reboot, so they're gonna pass the
Oh yeah,
torch to these new characters
yeah.
because they're younger and they'll continue the franchise, which Halloween is trying to kind of do. Although
That's what
Jamie
I
Lee Curtis is
seriously
coming back, so I guess not really, but that's what they
right.
wanted you to think with this, and I love that they didn't do that. And at the end of it, it was still all about the main three, and they all survived again.
Well, that's why I also thought they weren't even going to be in it because, or I thought, if anything, I was probably thinking like, oh, like kind of like what Resurrection did, where like Nev Campbell or Courtney Cox, one of them will be in, or even David Arquette, one of them will be at the beginning, but they'll just die right away, and then they're going to pass the
Yeah.
torch to Emma Roberts and Hayden Panettiere because I did know that them two were in this and they're pretty big,
Hmm.
actors or actresses. So I
Yeah.
was like, that's probably what's going to I thought literally it was just going to be seen through Emma Roberts' eyes. She was going to be like the new Sidney, and we weren't even going to
Hmm.
see Nev Campbell and Courtney Cox and David Arquette. But I am really glad that I was wrong.
Yeah. No, I love that it still continued their story, and they were like, again, that's what you would expect for it to. Any other franchise would have
Done that.
started with, yeah, a new younger character, but again,
Yeah.
I love this didn't do that, and they were like,
I,
no,
I
fuck
love
that.
how all the actors were always willing to come back too. Like obviously they enjoyed making these movies and they all obviously got along. And I do
Yeah.
love how Courtney Cox and David Arquette were divorced at that time, but still remained,
Hmm.
friends and were able to still play lovers like
Yeah.
like that's cool. I like that. Like not all
Yeah.
divorces end like bitterly, which is nice.
I know. I said it's probably because they have like a kid and they're like friendly with each other and they're friends,
Right. So it
which is
was like amicable. Yeah.
which is nice. It's funny in that interview, funny and kind of sad. That interview I told you where David Arquette mentions Doofy,
I know
like
I love
they show it the scene they show him is like a scene in the first Scream with him and Courtney Cox, and the first thing he said is like, "Oh, and there's my ex-wife."
I love that. Oh my god. What year was that interview? Was that like after
Uh, it might have. It was after Scream 4 at some point.
Oh, okay.
I guess on Gale, I really like her story in this, and I really like her performance in this. I love that it's like she got married to Dewey, but he's the sheriff now, so she feels like she's trapped in this town, and she has
Yeah.
not like she can't, you know, be on the big news show or whatever, or be the reporter
Yeah.
she wants to be, and she's like really jealous of Sidney because Sidney's going on her book tour.
Yeah. So I feel like she kind of uh not regresses because that sounds like a bad word to use because I don't want to just like but I do feel like she kind of goes full circle and kind of goes back around to like how she was in
But
the
I
first
can,
one. She kind of gets like
but I can
selfish again.
Yeah, but I can understand that with like if she is trapped, she feels like she's trapped here, and she's probably frustrated that she can't
No,
like
yeah, I'm saying I mean that as a good thing because
yeah.
I think it was interesting that she did grow as a character throughout the second and third movie, but that she's been with Dewey for a little bit now. She's getting kind of bored with her life, not necessarily with him, but like what you're
Mhm.
saying, like, and so she kind of starts to regress back to the Gale that was less mature and less like and
Yeah.
kind of like a bitch because she wanted to get her way. So I do really like that, and the fact that when she's hiding cameras, at that party, just like Gale would
Yeah.
have done in the first one, like
Hmm.
I do like that how she kind of is because you feel like oh she'll always be that bitch still, which is what
Yeah.
we love her for. So I
I
like that.
know. I know, and I love that opening scene where she's watching like an interview with Sydney on the computer, and then she's like tries to get back in her game and wants to write something, and she's just like, I have no fucking idea
I do,
what
yeah.
you
She's
want.
like typing in. That's like so relatable to me when I'm
I
trying to like write.
know.
That's like writer's
I
block. Like
know.
I don't.
Yeah. And I love her. Yeah, I love that, you know, how we said she was sort of frustrated in her life and whatever. And then, like you said, she set up the cameras, so she was trying to she tried to help with the investigation, but
Yeah,
Dewey and all the other cops were shutting her down because they were just like, yeah, you're Gail Riley, you're the sheriff's wife. We don't need your
yeah.
help. And
Exactly.
I can see that. I can understand why that made her even more frustrated. Like she even says like, I love that she I love that she like is very snipey at the Dewey's deputy, that blonde
Oh
woman.
yeah, there's like sort of like almost
She's
like a jealousy thing with her
yeah.
too. I love that.
There was a scene where she went into the office and she wanted to help Dewey with the investigation, and she said like,
Oh, yeah, that she wouldn't let her in right away or something.
yeah.
Like,
And then when
yeah.
she got in, she said to her like, "Are you familiar with the phrase 'I wrote the book on this'?" And then she slams the door on her.
I know. She's so
So it's like, yeah, that's kind of fucked up. She did help 3 times solve the murders, and then you're just like not gonna let her help because you're the sheriff now. But I kind of
yeah.
like that because I kind of liked her going back, to, like you said, to Scream One Gale and solving it on her own or trying to
Yeah, and
solve it
being
on
like
her own.
determined. Yeah, she kind of not that she didn't have the determination and stubbornness and bitchiness
Yeah.
in the previous two movies, but it was sort of like she sort of was like, and again, I don't want to say the word following Dewey around because she definitely had her own strength and her own, but like it was almost like, they were sort of a team and they worked well
Mhm.
together, which they still do in the fourth one, but I do kind of like how there is some sort of friction where it's like,
Yeah.
and she has to be the stubborn, determined Gale on her own again, which I absolutely love. So I do like how she does kind of go full circle, but you know,
Mhm.
I do like that.
Or even
It
when
was
she,
very reminiscent to the first one.
I know, which was great. I really did
I
like
know.
that. Her sort of behaving more like that. It was fun.
Yeah.
I also love when she Dewey's deputy or whatever like made him like baked things or whatever, and when she leaves the police station, she just turns around, and I think I remember you saying yes, say something to her, say something
Yeah,
funny,
like
and
yeah.
she said your lemon squares taste like ass.
I know. I love that. I was cracking up. That whole like thing with her. I like seeing Gale like jealous anyway because it's just funny. So like when she's jealous with the girl in the third one, it's
Jennifer.
already yeah,
Yeah,
Jennifer, it's already funny. But then with her, it's just like, oh, I love it.
I know you can't step in on Gooey.
Exactly. I love that.
Oh, and then Dewey, it was really nice to see him as like, oh, but finishing up with Gale, I like that then she when she um Dewey wouldn't let her help with the investigation, so she then went to the movie kids at school and like tried to team up with them because they were like the new
Oh yeah.
Randies. I
Yeah.
like that she then did that, and then she was on her own trying to solve it at the barn. Um,
Yeah, I do kind of like the whole going kind of behind Dewey's back to kind of because she
yeah,
knows that she can help and she knows that she she's been through this before and I do like seeing it is kind of like again I keep saying it but going full circle because it's so much like her the first movie and
hmm
just her but I feel like in this fourth one though at least her motivations are a little less selfish because she's actually trying to help solve the case versus just
right,
trying to get the story for her own gain even though she obviously is jealous of Sidney and wants a story too like
right,
she's got so
yeah.
many layers I just love it.
No, she's great. And then when at the film class, which also was great. I love that they were talking about horror movies in high school, and it's like, what the fuck? What? That's not a real thing. They'd
I
never let them do
know.
that. If they did, I
I
would be in that
know.
club in a heartbeat.
Oh my god, is that also where they have like all the cool like
They had the
movie?
movie posters, yeah, and there was the
Yeah.
one where I said blurry in the background in one shot. I'm pretty sure they had people under the stairs.
Oh, I love that. That's so awesome.
Yeah, and then
And
they
what
had
else do we see? The Green Mile, which the Green Mile's not
Three
really horror,
Mile.
but it's still a great
I
Stephen
think
King
it was
story.
like a
So
film class, but they also were talking about horror movies.
horror, yeah, which I
I
would
think I
absolutely
saw
love
the
that.
original Hills Have Eyes, and then
Oh yeah,
there
that
was
was on there.
Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, which was interesting.
Yeah, that's a very interesting choice. Maybe
Um,
because that had just come out. Was that like the
yeah,
most recent one? Yeah.
yeah, it was. There was a bunch everywhere. Oh, I think I might have seen like I saw an Alfred Hitchcock one, and maybe it was Vertigo.
Oh, that's interesting. Did I could have sworn I thought I saw, but maybe I'm lying. Like, was there like a Night of the Living Dead one, which would be awesome, but I don't know if there actually was.
It might have been Dawn of the Dead, like the original.
Oh, okay. That either way, that's really cool.
Yeah, that
Being
was a cool
paying
scene.
homage to all the
Yeah,
classics.
it would have been an awesome class. But
And it's funny because Wes Craven is like he's one of those classic like directors, and he's earned the right to say that but he also still references others that inspired him, which is really really cool, like Alfred Hitchcock and John
yeah,
Carpenter and all them. So that's cool.
yeah, no, that was really cool. It's a really cool scene.
But I do like how he had his own movie and there are two people under it because people under stairs is so good. I love it. Can't wait
Yeah.
to watch that.
One more thing on Gale in that scene before we move on. I love when she was trying to get them to tell her where the party was going to be, and they wouldn't tell her. I guess they didn't want her to ruin it. And then she just takes Sidney with her, and they just walk out, and she's just like, "Fuck you."
Yeah. Her little feisty like one-liners, and they're always good. Like they never fall flat or say, oh,
Yeah.
And again, I never looked at Gale. Maybe when I just saw the first movie and I hadn't seen any of the sequels, like she to me was just like, oh, she is just such a bitch. But like, I love that that's not all she ends up having so much more to her because she could potentially be a character I despise, but because she
Mhm.
has all these other and she's got like comedy and she's just got so many different things that make her so likable. Like you can't not like her, even if she
Yeah.
is a bitch. Being the bitch is part of who she is, though, which is why she's
Exactly. And
entertaining.
sometimes her being a bitch could be an asset. She can get something done.
Exactly, she uses it to her advantage. I love it.
Oh, but then on to Dewey. I really liked it was kind of good for Dewey. He's got his after he was always the naive, like younger one, like he was younger
Yeah,
than Gale. He was, a little innocent. He still is a little naive in this movie, but I like that he's got his big boy pants on, and now he's the
yeah,
sheriff.
he's
So
the
that's
sheriff.
really
Yeah,
cool for Dewey.
for
That
his
was a
growth.
that
Yeah.
was a yeah, that was good development for him.
Yeah, I feel like he's always like very solid. Like he's very like wholesome, and he does obviously grow, like you said, from being just the naive, not really knowing what to do to kind of going through all this shit. And I like how we forgot to mention it, but he had the limp all the way up until this movie, right? Because I guess like
Yeah,
they
because
figure
this
it's been
was
a
like
significant amount of time.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, he had it in 2 and 3.
but that's good acting, or I guess if Wes Craven or whoever told him to do that, whoever's idea that was, that's really that's cool because
Right.
it, you know,
Yeah, it
all
was
from the first movie.
consistent and
Yeah.
good continuity. I remembered this, just a small little thing, because it just how him walking like that reminded me of this. But like, it shows you that Dev Campbell is even more awesome and whatever. That apparently she was during the entire shooting of this movie, she had a broken foot. So all the time she's running around
Oh,
and
really?
doing all her stunts, she had a broken foot, and she still was like doing
Oh my
everything.
God. Ooh, I wonder how that happened or how she was able to even like, oh my God, I'm such a baby with pain. I'd be like, nope, can't work today. She's a great actress though too. And I guess, did we talk about her already? I
Yeah,
guess
we
we,
did. We
okay.
did.
So,
We talked about her book and her helping
oh
people.
yeah, yeah. So we talked about the main three like always. Again, I was so glad and pleasantly surprised that all three were back and were the main focus. I thought if we were going to see any of them, we would see them for the beginning. They'd get killed off, and then,
You know,
and I
that
feel like that was something that they wanted to do because like, oh, who wants to see these three again? Like I feel like that,
exactly. I feel like that would be the normal Hollywood thing. It's like, okay, fine. They're old.
yeah.
They had their movies. Let's move on and make
But
some inferior
obviously,
movies.
yeah,
With
obviously Wes Craven stuck to his guns and was like, no, and he definitely
right. And
made a good
even like they have the TV show, and I watched the first season of the TV show. It was all right. It was kind of bland and nothing.
right.
But it's like Resident Evil. When it's not the characters, it's not that. So like Resident Evil
I
7.
agree.
So when it's not Gale, Dewey, and Sidney, it's not Scream. So that's how I feel about the
Right.
TV show. It's
Right.
kind
I
of
agree.
yeah,
Well, it's kind of like what we said about Halloween. If it's not either Laurie, Jamie, or Donald Loomis, like it doesn't really
yeah,
feel like a
right.
Halloween movie.
It
So that's
does.
why Resurrection's the real bad one, right?
Yeah,
With
yeah,
Buster. Yeah, that's why that one felt so because like they just kill Laurie off right in the beginning, and then there's no other characters in it that are worthwhile. So
right. Yeah. So I'm really glad again that they didn't pass the torch as you
yeah,
predictably would expect them to. It was still about the main three.
I know,
And I would
which is
hope,
very
I'm
unique.
glad they didn't do a 5 and 6 like they originally planned,
Oh, were
but
they going to? I didn't know
they
that.
wanted it to be a new trilogy, but then this one didn't do as well as the first three, and
Oh,
then Wes
okay.
Craven died, so they just didn't. So I
Oh,
hope that they never do. Honestly, I hope they just stop with Scream. Stop that
right.
TV crap. Don't make another sequel,
Yeah,
especially
but
not
with
Wes
I'm
Craven's dead.
I'm
And
really surprised with how far with Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Halloween were all remade, and even Halloween is still continuing to
uh-huh,
churn out movies all the fucking time. I'm really surprised Hollywood has not even been tempted yet with. I mean, I'm sure maybe they have been tempted, maybe it's even been negotiated and thought about, but I'm glad it hasn't happened yet, and I really hope it doesn't, especially after I've seen them all now. I feel like they may end up jumping on the bandwagon with, oh, Jamie Lee Curtis, came back, and is doing another round of Halloween
right.
movies. Let's see if we can contact Nev Campbell and see if she'll do it. But I just,
I would hope, I would hope that Nev Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette, if they ever approach, would be like, "No, this was Wes's thing.
yeah,
We're not
it
gonna do
wouldn't
this
feel the
without
same.
him."
Exactly.
I mean, they were loyal enough. They worked with him so much, and they must have all gotten along. So
Right. So hopefully they would be like, no. But let's just be honest. If it was to either be quote unquote remade or rebooted or whatever, wouldn't you prefer to see the three of them in it versus just
I
them,
would,
yeah,
I
making a
would,
full on remake or something? But yeah,
but I feel like where else could they go?
that's
Um,
true.
they did s- horror movies, then sequels, then trilogies, and then remakes. What else could they talk about, really?
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
And make like a statement about.
yeah. Um, well, that's the original three, I guess.
Yes.
They're all really good. I think they were all great in their return.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about? We could talk about a couple of the new characters because some of them don't really have enough to, you know.
To really say, yeah.
Um, we talk about Jill, Emma
We should
Roberts.
probably save her for last.
We could.
Ah,
That's just the order I
I have a
had.
lot to say about
All
her,
right.
so.
We would have been equally, even I think more enjoyable to watch. I think she's the best new character on this, and she's great every time she's on screen. Is Hayden Panettiere.
Oh, it's Kirby. Yeah,
She was
she,
great.
yeah, she had a lot of. I liked her like, her like bitchy, like snarky moments with the what is it, Jill's like ex-boyfriend or something? What's
Yeah,
his name? Yeah,
Trevor.
yeah, Trevor, and she's like, Trevor, who invited you? Like, get out of my house, and she's just
I
like,
literally wrote down those lines because I wanted to make sure we read them.
I love that. 'Cause, see, I remember obviously that one the most because we did just watch it, so I can probably
Yeah,
talk about this one with more clarity without you having to remind me of certain things. But no, I really liked her. I like Hayden Panettiere anyway. I know you and I have talked about
yeah,
on this channel before how much we really like Until Dawn, and obviously she's in that, and
yes,
she's like one of the main characters.
yes.
And when I accidentally killed her off one time at the end, I was really pissed off at myself because she's so likable in that, and she's
Didn't you
just
say
like
your dad did that too?
oh my god, he was so mad. He was like, the cute little blonde girl died at the end. I was like, he was like, I thought she was gonna survive out of them all. I'm like, no, you can possibly kill all of them, which is crazy. Um, but no, I've always liked her as an actress. She's just very cute, but she's also, a good actress. Like she played the part really well in this. Like she had that bitchy, snarky side, but then was able to like also portray being stabbed and dying pretty well. She's just an all around really solid actress, and I'm really surprised because we always talk about, Neve Campbell, but I don't see
Mhm.
Hayden Panettiere and things anymore. She used to be really big when that show
Yeah,
Heroes was on.
yeah,
I
no,
didn't
she
watch it, but
was.
I know she was in that. Yeah. So I don't know why she doesn't do anything because I think she's really good.
Yeah, I don't
But
really see her doing much either. I really don't know when the last time I saw her. But she is
um,
really good. That's a shame. Um, I just
yeah.
remembered she had a line early in the movie that I liked. They always mention other horror movies. I think they were in the car. She was in the car with Jill and the other friend, and she said something. They were talking about Sidney, and I think she said like they were talking about how people always die around Sidney, and she
Right.
said like I think she said Stab is the wrong franchise for her. She should, or maybe it was the other friend, but they said she should be in Final Destination because everybody's
Oh
dying
yeah,
around.
I remember that. That's great. No, I love all the references to classic horror movies and stuff. So the fact that Final Destination, because I love that. Well, I like the first three. I actually never saw four or five, but first three were really solid. Love those movies.
That'll be a
Um,
series for us to do in the future. I'll show you and make you watch
four and five.
the
I
Garbage Four.
Oh yeah, but then you said five was decent, right? Like it brought it
Yeah.
back to sort of because I was just to me counted Final Destination as like a trilogy because I love the first three.
Hmm.
They're solid, and then I just kind of was like,
Yeah.
nah, I'm gonna stay away from four and five. But anyway, we'll definitely get to them eventually. But yeah, I love all the the references to classic. Like I love again how Wes Craven was able to do that. Like he's such a classic in the horror world himself, but the fact that he's able to, you know, pay homage to these other classics is really great. So the final, I remember when she said that, I was like, ooh, that's interesting. They mentioned Final Destination.
That's kind of cool too, because that was a franchise that came after Scream 3 ended, so it was cool that they even
Oh, really?
decided. Yeah.
Oh,
I
wow, I
think it
didn't know
came out
that.
the same year as Scream 3 did. Well, I have something else on Hayden Panettiere and classic horror movies. I kind of liked the whole scene at the end, when Ghostface was giving her that trivia
Oh, that
question.
quiz, yeah.
They don't, she kind of interrupts him and doesn't let him finish the question. It was something about, like, name the remake of the groundmaking, whatever, in which the villain, blah, blah, blah. And then
Oh,
she sort of lists so many movies,
yeah,
like
all the.
Halloween, Dawn of the Dead, The Hills Have Eyes, Black Christmas. She just keeps going and going
Doesn't
and
she say
going.
Amityville too? Because that
Hmm.
remake was so bad.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. She keeps listing more, and it made me think like, wow. And they're remaking more stuff now, but it's like, wow. In between Scream 3 and Scream 4, look at how
Horror
many
remakes were
things
a
they
big thing.
remade.
Yeah, that is crazy to think. But
Sad.
yeah, when she was naming them all, I didn't realize because I feel like today, with it being so successful, I think it sort of like kicked it off again with
Mm.
remakes of horror movies, which it was done very well. But then we had obviously Pet Cemetery, and now they're talking about like you know doing there was another one that they're talking about doing, and I was like no, and I honestly forget now what it was, but I'm just like I can't believe in between that time when she was naming them all that all those came out because I
It
had
was like
seen
10
and heard.
years.
I
It's
know
10 years.
that's crazy though. Like, and I am glad she mentioned Amityville just because I love the original and hate the remake so bad. So at least it was mentioned that it
Yeah.
had a shitty remake.
Well, I had the little thing of, I mentioned it to you. I don't think you caught it because it was only a split second, but I like that they had, in the school, they had a statue of Henry Winkler, the principal from the
Oh
first
yeah,
movie.
yeah. You had said it, like told me when we were watching it, but I didn't catch it. But that's actually really cool to
Yeah.
reference back to the first one. And he's a really they do get a really like decent amount of like big actors in these movies. Even and I do like that they don't shy away from killing off like the main big because like
Yeah.
I don't know like I was kind of surprised that Henry Winkler like died because he's such a big actor. Like I thought they would have used him for more scenes, but they were like, nope, Wes Craven. Oh, we forgot to mention Wes Craven's cameo
Oh, that's right.
when he's because now that we're talking about Henry Winkler, I was thinking of like when he's
Yeah.
and he has like the Freddy sweater. Like
He thought,
he was very clever with like the way he did
yeah.
things with his
Yeah,
movies.
what was it? He like thought that some of the kids were messing with him, and then he comes out of the room and he says like, "You little shits," and then Wes Craven just turns around with
Yeah, yeah.
a mustache and a hat and a Freddy sweater. What
And
you
a
call
Freddy.
me?
Yeah, what you... I love that. I wish he had done like cameos in all of them. That would have been awesome. But
Um,
that was like enough.
he had cameos in other ones. I think like he had one in Scream 4 that they cut out, but
Oh, that's dumb.
um,
Well, nothing will ever beat that cameo anyway. Him literally wearing a Freddy, like Wes Craven wearing a Freddy sweater is the most iconic thing ever. We can just be done
I
like
know.
after that.
We talk about how useless those cops were that were supposed to be guarding Sidney.
Yeah, they were
They
actually
like
really.
disappeared for a second, and then immediately her friend next door got killed. And then they came back and they were like, "Oh, we were just looking around back." And I said, "Wow, Sydney just I don't know how you feel safe in their hands."
Yeah, they were actually the first. I'm actually glad you mentioned them because they were the first characters to me that I just felt were cliche and I didn't like them at all. They were the only characters in the whole
Hmm.
thing of Scream that I just didn't like because they were like bumbling idiots and even
Yeah.
when the one of them dies and he ends up having like a dumb little one-liner before he falls over and I just didn't like that at all. Like it was I remember you said like the first cop gets stabbed in the back and he goes down right away. The other one gets like what is
Stabbed in the
he?
forehead, and then he
Yeah,
keeps
like in his
bleeding. Like,
brain.
yeah,
Yeah, which I guess could happen because, like,
I
you
have
know,
heard stories
but
about that. I think Wes Craven even said he heard like it has happened.
it does happen. Yeah, sometimes. But like, I just, I don't know. Those characters were eh. They didn't really
I
make
don't
an
know. I
impact.
always got a chuckle out of the line because they were talking about like the only way in a movie if you can survive if you're a cop is if you're Bruce Willis, and that was the line when he fell down.
Oh
He said,
yeah, yeah, I do
"Fuck
remember
Bruce
that.
Willis."
Fuck Bruce, which was kind of like okay,
Yeah,
but yeah, they weren't great. But I guess like
yeah. There was
they
nothing
needed
really
more.
to them.
I guess did they? Yeah, I was gonna say like were they just put in there for like more kills?
Could have been. I mean, how this movie like again tried to mirror the times it was came out in with the gore and stuff, but in like a meta way, like we're a modern movie, this is what we're doing. Not like we have to do it, but like
But we
making a
yeah
joke of it.
yeah
So
making it
maybe
yeah
for the body count also they had extra people, just have a bigger body count. Dewey's deputy was a little sometimes obviously they tried to
yeah.
creepy.
Yeah, when she was who is it? Sydney's like upstairs or something and
Yeah,
she
and
or
she's
is
like
it
in the shadows.
yeah, that was really weird. And I think again, that's why I was like, "Oh, at first I did think she could potentially be the killer, but then I was like, that's so obvious because they're trying to make her kind of creepy, which I don't get otherwise. If she's not the killer, what was up with that fucking scene then? She's just a weirdo that stands in the dark and like talks to people. Like it was really
Yeah,
weird, but I
no.
do like her whole dynamic with I know we talked about it when we talked about Gale, but I do like that whole thing because I don't
Hmm.
know. It gives Gale. Gale always has some type of person that she's just bitching out
Oh, and
throughout the
then
movie. I love that.
there was also kind of a payoff. I kind of liked to their like rivalry or whatever. That at the end, she comes in and like,
Oh,
you
helps.
know, like
Yeah.
she saves Gale from getting shot. She like tackles her to the ground in the hospital room.
Yeah, so their whole little quirky thing did have like a payoff, which is
Mm.
nice. I mean, Gale, like if you think about it, throughout all the movies, Gale has had one usually female character that she just zeroes in her aggression on and did like bitches them
I
out.
know. It was
Like in the
Sidney, and then
second
she
one,
got
it's
a.
yeah, Sidney was in the first one. I guess that she would count
Oh
as the
yeah,
first
and
one.
then Mrs. Loomis,
In the second one, yeah.
and
And then
then Jennifer,
obviously
and then
Jennifer in the third one, and Nessa. Like, there's always some type of female that like Gale's just either annoyed by or annoying, which is hilarious.
yeah,
But no, she was. I think what they were trying to do was make you think it could be that blonde deputy girl, which I kind of started to at first, but then I was like, no, it'd be too obvious. I don't know. Remember, eventually I was just like guessing everybody, and you're like,
I know.
if you guess everybody, you're eventually gonna get it. And I'm like, I don't know, I'm so confused. But I guess if you want to talk about the biggest twist, and I guess finally talk about Jill, we can talk about that because I
Yes.
thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, she was an interesting choice to be Ghostface, and her whole reasoning was interesting. Like she kind of got tired of, like she said, "Do you know what it's like growing up in this family, and it's
Yeah,
always about
yeah.
you, hearing about you, and then
See, I
she
like
like,
that because I thought they were gonna. I said it when we were talking about the third one, like how much more can they do with Sidney? How much more motives could they possibly have? But I do like that was like the thing. Like they needed, like
yeah,
yeah, of course she's like jealous and she wants to steal her fame type of thing, which like can make sense since they do obviously make Sidney like a public famous figure after all she's been through and everything.
hmm
She's in like the public eye, so to do kind of something with that was really unique and cool. At first I was like when she first was revealed, I'm like, oh my god, what is she gonna say is her like motive? But I actually think as simple as the motive is, like yeah, she just wants to steal her fame. She's jealous of her, whatever. It was as
yeah.
simple as it was. It worked so well. Like
Mhm.
it makes sense.
And
So
she just wanted the fame. Like even Sydney says at one point, like even your friends, you killed even your friends, and she's like that she doesn't need friends, she needs fans, and like even there
yeah,
was a
that was
little line
interesting.
about a commentary about like today, and that was almost 10 years ago now, but it still kind of applies. Like she said, like, how do you think people get famous anymore? You don't have to achieve anything. That's
That's
look
so
at the
true.
Kardashians and
Oh
things
my
like
god,
that.
that's so true. It just or like honestly, like as mean as this is gonna sound, like even like YouTubers that just kind of sit on
Well,
you. There are people that get famous on YouTube for just like sitting on YouTube and eating, like and like just
yeah,
doing
stuff
like
like
little things
that
like
is
that.
absurd. There are some people that are like comedians and things use YouTube, but yeah, things like that are just
Well,
like,
yeah, like there's
wow,
certain people that deserve
and they
their
get
fame on
paid for
YouTube, but
that.
yeah, but some of those things I found on YouTube that are very popular, I'm like, wait, what? How did this get popular? But yeah, no, the Kardashians are a good example too. I mean, I know that their dad was a big famous lawyer and they have this whole empire of fashion and everything, but the fact that they're just famous for being like I
Well,
don't
they're
know,
famous
stupid.
for one of them had a sex tape, and then they
Oh
all
yeah,
got famous.
Kim. Yeah, yeah, that's true. Same with Paris Hilton.
Yeah.
That's why I love when she dies in House of Wax. But anyway, um,
So no, I liked her reasoning and motivation and things like that.
yeah, and that actually, I don't know if this was intentional at all, but like apparently, this is kind of random, but that has happened in real life where killers of people have said they want. Like I think I read somewhere that the guy who shot John Lennon had literally said because they never really got what his motive was out of it. He said so many
hmm
different things, but one of his reasoning for killing him was I wanted to steal his fame. Like that's, I mean, I guess he's right though because once you kill somebody that famous, like you kind of gain
Yeah.
their fame or whatever. But I mean, but it in this movie, Jill's like was a little bit different because she wasn't gonna out herself for killing Sidney. She just wanted to be involved in some way and like make it look like
Like
Sidney was killed and she was there. Yeah, like
right. Well,
it
I
makes
love
sense.
the whole setup. It's a little complicated, to piece it all together what they were saying, but this was supposed to be the remake. So
Yeah.
they were talking when Sydney at the end, and they were saying, she's the new Sydney, how they're setting
Yeah.
it up. And the film guy, what was his name?
Oh, the
I
one.
don't know his name. The Culkin. The Culkin.
Oh, the Culkin. Yeah.
But
Calling
then
him
they were like,
Culkin.
and he's the new Randy, and
Yeah.
then blah blah blah. And then when Jill turns on him, Sydney was like, yeah, well, look at that, Trevor and Stu, Billy and you, because Trevor was the
Oh
boyfriend.
yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and then when she shot her boyfriend in like the dick.
I know that was kind of weird.
We were talking about that was the one thing that, like, okay, you might give yourself away that way. How would
Yeah. Other
unless
than
you're gonna
that, her
say like I
plan
unless she's gonna say, oh, I got a hold of a gun and just that's
shot.
where I shot.
Yeah, yeah, because otherwise her plan may have been successful, but that was the one thing where I was like, girl, they could like kind of trace that back to you. That's kind of stupid, but whatever. But
Yeah.
I honestly think that reveal. First of all, I mean, I kind of was like, I want to suspect Emma Roberts, but then again, she's known, at least the movies that I've seen her in, for like comedies or lighthearted things. I've never really seen her in a full-fledged like drama or
Mhm.
obviously in a horror movie or anything. So I'm like, would they really like get her to do it? I don't know. But then when she revealed herself, I was like, oh my god. But it wasn't even just like the shock of who it was. I just think her as an actress, like she did that, she was fucking psycho in that shit. And I didn't expect the level of like how psychotic she actually like turned out to be. Like I was just like, wait,
I know,
is
yeah.
this really Emma? She was amazing though as an actress. I applaud her. I always have liked her as an actress, so I was excited that she was in this. But like for her to go from like the sweet little like Disney type girl that I knew her from, like to go to that, I was like, oh my god, this is actually really
I know everything she
awesome.
did that was like she was trying to mutilate herself to make it look like
Oh,
she
I
had been
know.
in it was like she like took Trevor's hand and had him use his fingers to scratch her face so
Oh,
he
I know that, and rip her hair out. Oh, there was like,
and then she ran into the picture frame and then she jumped
I know.
backwards onto the table.
She was like completely psycho, but it really did work, and she's a great actress. So,
Yeah.
um, I
Um
think that was like, this is gonna sound, I don't know, because I really liked the second one too with the reveal with Mrs. Loomis, but I for some reason really liked the fourth movie, and I thought
mhm.
it would be like my least favorite because as they go on, as
Yeah.
legend goes, they're usually, I really liked this one, and I almost think that like Emma Roberts' Jill is like my favorite of the villainous characters. I know that sounds kind
Oh,
of
that's
crazy, but
interesting.
yeah,
No, I
I
think
was
they're
waiting to
all
tell you
great.
that, but
So I think all the Ghostface are great. I always thought that the Culkin was the least impressed. I don't even remember his name. Was the least impressive. Like he never did anything for
he
me
doesn't do
as
any
a Ghostface. But I think they're
right.
all great. So I can totally see why
I
you like
mean,
her.
Billy and Stu are obviously the classic ones and the ones that
Yeah.
I grew up with, but from seeing them all, and I don't want to boldly say that because I do definitely want to see them again. I've only seen all the sequels once now, but I really, really, really liked Emma Roberts. I really liked the way. I mean, some I could see how some people might say she was like almost too over the top, but I think it just worked. She played Psycho really fucking well, and it was just really, really interesting. And the whole hospital scene at the end, because normally the movies would end with like the villain getting killed at that one spot, and then like
Yeah.
there was never anything after that. So the fact
I
that
like
that
that.
whole hospital scene is awesome too.
I kind of like that the movie kept going after you thought it would end because they even
Yeah.
commented on it, said that like the barn party was supposed to be like the party at the end of Scream. That was supposed to be
Yeah,
the ending. And then they went to the house and they said that was, and then it kept going to the hospital. So I like that it like gave you a false ending and then kept going.
me
Again,
too. I really liked
what
that.
you expected and then not doing that.
No, I
Um,
liked that too, and I can't even really pinpoint exactly why she's like literally like my favorite, but there was just something really,
that
and maybe it's the actress herself because I know
yeah,
her. I don't know, but it just really
that's a
worked for me. It
bold
was entertaining.
statement from you, Brandy, that your favorite is one of the female villains, and you always
Oh
used
my
to
God, I
not.
know that is interesting. They do it really well in Scream, the bitchy women characters, and I don't know. She was it was just entertaining to watch because she was so fucking psychotic, and
Yeah.
I didn't expect it to be that crazy, but she was
Well,
probably the most psychotic out of all the Ghostface on it. I mean, Billy
mhm,
and Stu are pretty fucked up. They stab each other. They're pretty crazy too, but she just, I don't
yeah.
know. She was very entertaining.
Yeah, no, she was really good. And then at the hospital, she kind of gave herself away. Like when she mentioned to Dewey, she said we'll have matching scars, and then Gale was the one to figure it out. And she
Oh
said like,
yeah.
how did she know where I was stabbed? Basically, is what she said, and then that's how they fixed. So Gale Gale solved it even from a hospital bed.
I know, right? She's
But
the whole reason that she's
but
caught.
then yeah, but then poor Dewey, she beats him over the head with a bedpan, and I know you
Oh,
were
I know.
worried he was gonna get killed.
I thought he was gonna die there. I was like, okay, they're actually gonna
And
kill
then
one of them off, but
And then when he like woke up from getting knocked out, and he's like, what'd she hit me with?" And Sydney's like, "Don't ask.
yeah.
It's a bedpan." There
Oh,
was just a couple fun moments in that final hospital sequence that I did like. Like I love it's usually how it goes is Dewey gets like stabbed and taken out, and then at the end it's Sidney and Gale, and then Gale also is taken out. But Sidney and Gale are kind of usually at the end fighting the killer. Like the
right.
beginning, they were also with Randy at the end. I mean the
Oh
first
yeah.
movie. But I like at the end of this one, they were Sidney and Gale were working together, even though they weren't like together when Jill had the gun on Gale and Sidney was getting up after Jill was like punched her in the stomach with her stitches, which
Ooh, yeah,
ouch.
that's I know.
But like she was like Gale was like, "Can I just have one last word?" And then she said clear, and then it was a fun moment with Sidney and she had the paddles and they
Oh yeah.
clear and then
And
she
remember Jill was like clears. Like
yeah,
what?
that's and Sidney just popped up. And then right after that was well, before I say that, there was one other line with Jill that I liked when she came into Sydney's room and she was like how long, how much is it going to take to kill you? Who are you, Michael fucking Myers?
I know, I love that. She was just very again, and I'm shocked at myself. I don't usually like female villains. I usually don't like the last movie in any type of like
Uh-huh.
because they usually get like I thought Scream 4 would literally be like my least favorite. I think it may. I mean, I don't want to order them right now because we're gonna do that at the end, but I think it'll be like maybe second. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I really, 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 really liked it. And again, I want to see them all again, and then I can probably solidly do like an actual because it was the more recent one I saw, so maybe that's why I'm just like, oh, it was. But I thought it was really good, and I think why it was so good is because I thought it was going to be something so different than
Right.
it actually was.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah.
I know what line I want to end it on talking about Scream 4, but I remembered one last thing with Gale I loved because it was a great sequence when she was setting up the cameras in the barn, and then I love when she went back to her car, and then it was really creepy because Ghostface was covering up her cameras and making her
Oh
go back
yeah,
inside,
yeah,
and then she saw a camera that wasn't hers, it was Ghostface,
yeah.
and then like, and then also for Dewey got there and then saw her cameras from Gale inside and then could see Ghostface behind her on the camera.
Oh, that was a cool. Yeah, that was a interesting
Yeah.
sequence. And almost all the three pivotal characters do get really like fucked up in this. Like they all get stabbed or hurt. But
Mm,
even when Sidney got stabbed, though, I was like, no, she's gonna survive that because she basically gets stabbed right where like I said this when we were watching it, where Joel in The Last of Us gets impaled and he
yeah.
survives. So I'm like, no, she's gonna live. And then obviously Gale got stabbed like in the shoulder, so I figured. But like I really did think they were gonna kill Dewey off with the whole bedpan thing because she like really beat the shit out of him with that. Like I'm
I know.
surprised he survived, but
Yeah.
I am ultimately glad that in the end the three mains did survive. I think it may have been interesting if he did die there and then it was just
Yeah.
like Sidney and Gale were like left to sort of just like be the girls, but I don't know, I liked it. It was unique that they did all actually survive.
Yes. I do like that. I but don't you also love how stupid it was funny that like the whole hospital seemed completely abandoned. Like you saw one
Yeah.
nurse walking down the hallway and Jill hit her behind the door, but Jill took out all her things, which you think would have set off an alarm, and then there's gunfire and shit's going
I
on
know, and
and
nobody
nobody's
comes.
there. I
Yeah.
told you that I remember it because it was on the commentary that I listened to years ago. You can only hear it on that, so I guess they cut it out of the theatrical, like the actual cut, but
Right.
there's a line of Gale from off screen. Literally, I wish they had kept it in, like yelling after Dewey got beat up. She was literally yelling, "Where the hell is everybody?"
Oh yeah, that's so true.
I wish they had kept that in because it's
I
just
remember
so
you
funny
telling
that
me.
it's just abandoned, and then she comments on it and like, "Where the hell is everybody?"
Because it's true, and I feel like in horror movies, a lot of the time that's the case. Like they get taken to a hospital, and it just looks so empty and
I
weird. And it's
know,
like hospitals are busy and like
I
never
know.
that
I really
empty.
wish they would have kept that line in. That was a really funny line.
Because that's true. She's like pointing it out too. I love that.
But yeah, no, I really love Scream 4 as well. It was the only one I got to see in theaters because I was really young with the other ones, so that was cool. I told you that when I saw it, I really had to pee because I had so much
Oh
soda,
yeah,
but I didn't want to
yeah.
leave because I was enjoying it so much. Um,
Oh, that's great.
but yeah,
That's a
no,
good memory of it watching it in theaters.
the line I wanted to end Scream 4 on, and then we can do our
Wrap
ranking
up.
quickly. Yep.
Yeah.
Was a line I knew you would love. I even interrupted you when we were watching it, and I was like, "Oh
Oh
wait,
yeah.
you're gonna love it." When Sydney turns around to Jill after she shoots her or something, or she gets her with the paddles, and she says, "You forgot the first rule of remakes, Jill. Don't fuck with the original."
Oh my God, I know that line is me for everything. Like, for real.
Oh,
Like, that
I
is so
know.
true. I love that. That
I would love to think that even in like, because Jill was supposed to be the new Sidney, I would even love to think in a meta way and in a real way that Scream 4 killed a remake.
yeah, that because that's true. And the whole commentary on it, on remakes, just it just fit perfect. Because I was thinking like, okay, there's 4 Scream movies, but what else can they sort of,
Yeah,
comment on or whatever, or make a statement about? Because it's like, horror movies, sequels, trilogies. What else can they do? And then when it was like, maybe that is why there hasn't been a remake, because it's like, nah, he did it too good with Scream 4. I do
exactly.
love that. That line is like becoming one of my favorite like lines in any movie because
It's a
it's so
great
true.
line. Yeah, it's probably the best line of that movie.
Yeah, I don't know. Overall, Scream 4 was really, really, really good. All of them were good. We can definitely talk about that,
Yes.
now, but
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I always liked all the Scream movies. I didn't, there was never a sequel I didn't enjoy. Um, but Scream 1 is obviously a classic. Nothing can top
yes.
it. It's just iconic in the whole genre. I think Scream 2 was a really good follow-up. There wasn't really anything bad with that. It was still solid and strong, and the actors and the characters and story and
Yeah.
everything, and the killers and the twists. Scream
Yeah, the
3 I
twist in
think
that
was
was good.
good. Scream 3 might have been a little lower, just because
Yeah.
I can see the criticism, but it
Yeah,
doesn't
it
really
makes
take away from my
sense, but it
enjoyment.
doesn't.
But I can
Exactly.
understand it. And then yeah,
Exactly.
Scream 4 was really, really well done.
Yes, and I
So I'd
do like
probably
how
go
all of them fuck with your expectations.
exactly. I love that. Um, I would, and it's really fun for us as horror fans to have movies like this that comment on them and mislead you and misdirect you. It's really fun.
Exactly. I know.
So
Yeah, as big
I
horror
feel
fans.
like you would like the sequels. I knew you would.
Yeah, I think the fact that they do sort of, they're so self-aware and they do kind of poke fun at them because they're horror movies. Obviously, the Scream movies are
Yeah,
horror movies, but they make fun of all the cliches of horror movies, which means they don't themselves suffer from the cliches because they point them out, they make fun. I mean, I guess there's obviously always going to be some of the cliches like, oh, the final girl survives, which Nev Campbell
right.
survives throughout all of them, whatever. But I think for the most part, they're very unique in that they're, first of all, we already said they're all consistent, and all of them have really solid storylines, really solid, reveals at the end. All of them, even if the third one I said was probably like my least favorite, whatever. Like they all have good killers, good
Mm.
motives. I really can't think of anything I would really complain about with any of them, which is shocking to me. But yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I can see people's problems with 3. But
Yeah, but for you personally, it's not like, oh, this sucks because
for
it's
me
A, B, and
personally, I
C.
can still enjoy it.
Yeah,
It's not like, if I'm watching a series, like if we watch all of these, or it's
right.
not like the other series where you gotta like push your way through a bad sequel that you just don't enjoy.
Exactly. And
I
that's what
think
I
this
was
whole,
thinking. I was thinking the
yeah,
fourth one was going to be that. Not even
hmm
necessarily that I thought it was going to be like awful, but I just thought it wasn't going to be consistent, and it was probably going to be my least favorite. So I'm really shocked at how much I really liked the fourth one.
yeah. So I guess just to end it here and wrap up, um, quickly could do our little ranking. I would probably go 1, and then I think 2 and 4 are like tied. I'll say 2 and 4 are tied for 2,
Hey, that's
and that's
that's a
Scream
cop
3.
out.
Okay, then I'd go 1, 2, 4, 3, but 4 is very, very close to 2. And then 3
Okay.
is really enjoyable for me on its own.
Okay, like I said, I like them all. They're all really, really solid. So just because one might be last doesn't mean I don't like it. Obviously, you already know
Yeah.
that, but I just want to say that. So for me, it would go 1, 4, 2, 3. That's just, and again, I want to watch them all again, and maybe my choices will end up kind of switching around and changing as I get used to them and watch them more.
Yeah,
But as
well,
of my first viewing, that's how I really do feel. I really like the fourth one a lot.
yeah. Well, it's interesting because I remember a few years ago having the impression that like 4 was my least favorite.
Really?
Um, Not that I didn't like it, I did really like it, but think I still had I had nostalgia towards the first 3.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But now I think since I saw Scream 4 in theaters, I have nostalgia towards that now too. So now I can
Right.
objectively view them, and so I think that
Appreciate.
what sort of
Yeah.
helped it move up.
Well, when we first watched the first three, I already was like, oh, well, I just like them in the order they came out, 1, 2, 3, like that's my order, because I really did like the second one, and like I said, I still really like the third one, but I thought the reveal wasn't, and the reveal is always what I look forward to the most with these movies. So when it wasn't that great, even though the story behind the reveal was really great, like, you know, her mother and all the tragedy we talked about, I just was like, oh, you know, it wasn't as cool as like Billy Loomis's mom to me. So like that. Originally, I was like, okay, 1, 2, 3, and I was like, I'll probably put the fourth one last because I'm not gonna I already, and maybe I'm closed-minded and I don't give things enough of a chance, because I was already kind of going into Scream 4 thinking I wasn't going to like it, because I had certain, again, they really are good with fucking with your expectations, because to me, I thought it was going to be the pass the torch type thing, and Emma, I really thought that Emma Roberts was going to end up being the new Sidney, which is like what, you know, and that Hayden Panettiere was going to be like her friend character that gets killed off. Like, I thought it was just going to be sort of like a remake of the first Scream, and none of the 3 characters were going to be in it. They were done with Dewey, with Gale, and I thought, if anything, one of them will make an appearance in the beginning, get killed off right away, and we're done with them. So
I think that was the original. They had an original idea, was to have Sidney be the opening kill, and then
I'm glad that's
some producer was like, no, that's a bad idea.
Yeah, I'm glad, because that would have been so predictable. That's such the way that they always go. The fact that the Scream movies stick to their own thing and they don't give in to, you know, that type, because I really did think that was how Scream 4 was going to go. I'm very, very glad I was wrong. Yeah. And I think that's what made it so effective to me and made it my second favorite, just because it really went like way over my head with my expectations. So good job.
That's really, that's really awesome. Like I said, I half expected it, because I know how you like character and story and things, and I said this is the most consistent franchise with characters.
I mean, but did you honestly, and then we can totally end it on this, I'm just curious, did you think at all that, hey, Brandy might not really like this one? Like, did you think I wouldn't really like the fourth one, or did you think there were any
Scream 4?
I wouldn't?
No. Well,
because you know how I can be picky.
I know.
So.
Well, knowing some people's perception of 3, I was curious how you'd feel about that.
Okay.
But I felt like Scream 2 was good enough. Again, continue with the character, so I feel like you like that. Scream 4, I honestly kind of expected the reaction you got, just because of what you were saying before. Like, I know I knew what you expected going in, and inside I was like, oh, she's gonna be surprised. She's gonna really be surprised that they're all back and they're all great, and nothing's really done poorly. So I knew I was excited for you to
see it
when you realized that they were all there, because it literally, when you said it was blurry and you thought it was Gale at first, and then right after that they showed Dewey, and I remember you said like, oh, Gale better be in this, but I'm sure she is, and then she rolls over in bed. So I was waiting for your reaction to see all 3 of them back, and I knew after that, because I knew how much I enjoyed the rest of the movie. And I knew how you feel about remakes, and I love the commentary on remakes in this. I kind of assumed how you'd feel. And
maybe that's another reason it's in my second spot, because it definitely it talks about, like, it comments on my least favorite type of thing in Hollywood, which is remakes. So maybe that's another reason why, because, you know, I don't ever really like sequels. Well, I'm starting to like sequels more. I have to give them more of a chance, because obviously I liked Halloween and I liked all of these. But
I think you will like certain sequels when it's continuation of story and character. I feel like that's when it's random crap. That's when I think you won't like it.
I think that's why, like, I was always so scared to give these other sequels a chance, because I had seen, like, you know, the Nightmare on Elm Street sequel, which of course is awful and has nothing to do with like Nancy or the first movie. So I was just like, wow, like, are all of them like that? And I just kind of got this bad taste in my mouth with sequels. But I am very, very, very glad, just to wrap up, that you showed me them all the Screams, because they were all solid. They were all amazing. None of them disappointed. Even the fact that the last one that was made is my second spot, like, shocks me, because you know how I am. And the further things always go along, the worse that they get. But I really liked the fourth movie. I liked them all. All of them have, you know, consistency, and I think the main reason that the first one is in my first spot, because obviously it's a classic. It's nostalgic to me. I grew up with it, so obviously that's going to be number one. But as far as the sequels go, I really liked the fourth one. It was so good. Emma Roberts is great. 2 and 3 were really solid though too. So I have no complaints. So you did good. Now I'm gonna have to follow up with that and show you some good movies.
I know. Don't can't blow it. Yeah, you can't blow it, Brandy, after this series.
I know, right? So yeah,
Awesome.
that's how. I mean, like I said, and if we do watch another series soon, it's not going to be as fun because there's always going to be well, Child's Play might be fun until we get to like the third movie. Because there always is at least one or two in every other series that's kind of bad, but we'll see when we get to it. Next, we may be doing a Stephen King movie. Just saying, no more spoilers. I'm done.
There's a tease for anyone who makes it to the third hour.
I'm sure you can cut it up. We'll be good.
Yeah.